It started with a single comment, a few lines of text, and the desert kept everything that followed. He was known to those who followed desert communities online as an experienced and quietly unusual hiker. He had been exploring the Mojave and the ranges north of Las Vegas for years, documenting his trips in passing. Short descriptions of ridgelines and old mine workings, observations about a landscape that most people crossed quickly in an air-conditioned car. He hiked alone and preferred it that way. He had a particular affinity for places that required effort to reach. The Sheep Range sits northeast of Las Vegas, in country that looks severe from above and is severe up close. The rock is old and dark, volcanic in origin, with limestone layers pressing in from the surrounding desert basin. Temperatures drop sharply after sunset. In certain sections the canyons narrow to just a few meters across. It borders a large military exclusion zone along its eastern edge, one of the most restricted areas of airspace in the country. Few civilian trails are formally mapped. He had spent years alone in those mountains. He knew the terrain. Nothing had ever unsettled him before. The cave entrance was shaped like a specific letter. Not vaguely, not metaphorically. The arch of the rock face traced the outline of that letter with a precision that he described as almost too deliberate for geology. He came across it during a solo hike somewhere in the range's interior canyons. He was not looking for it. He was simply moving through unfamiliar terrain when the opening appeared in the rock face ahead of him. He stopped. He moved closer. As he moved toward the entrance, his body began to vibrate. Not a tremor he could see. Nothing visible from the outside. But a deep physical sensation starting at his feet and rising through his torso, intensifying with each step forward. He described it afterward as something he had never felt before in any other cave or canyon in the region. The sensation became alarming enough to stop him. He backed away. He walked back to his vehicle. He left. He turned around and walked back to his car. He drove home and said nothing about it for months. The original comment was posted in response to a video discussing claims about a nearby restricted military installation. He was not the primary subject of the video. He was a commenter. He described the cave in plain, specific language. The shape of the entrance, the direction he had approached from, the vibration, the retreat. He did not embellish the account. He wrote it as a simple record of an unusual experience. Within hours, hundreds of people had replied to it. The replies divided roughly along predictable lines. Some people were skeptical and said so directly. Others were fascinated and asked detailed questions about the location and the sensation. A small number warned him not to return, with a sincerity that is difficult to assess in the context of an online comment thread. And a large number did something that online communities tend to do when presented with a compelling, unresolved story. They demanded evidence. They wanted him to go back and document it. There is something worth pausing over in that moment. A man describes a strange and slightly frightening experience. The internet's collective response is not to encourage him to let it rest. It is to push him back into it, not maliciously, simply enthusiastically. The community had encountered a mystery and wanted resolution. He was the only person positioned to provide it. And he was the kind of person who found it genuinely difficult to leave a challenge unanswered. The two things lined up badly. He read the replies carefully. He responded to several of them. He confirmed details about the general location and the type of terrain. He described his background in desert hiking in terms that made his account more credible, not less. The exchange shows a man enjoying the attention, but also genuinely engaged with the mystery he had stumbled into. He announced at some point in the thread that he would return to the area and attempt to locate the entrance again. The audience responded positively. What comes next in the record is a period of preparation that he documented only partially. He posted several times about his upcoming return trips in general terms, without specifying dates or exact routes. His tone was consistent, calm, confident, slightly amused by the intensity of the online interest. He seemed to understand that he had walked into something that the internet was not going to let go of. He did not seem to find that unwelcome. He prepared to perform the search. In October, he set out for the first time on film. The camera was steady. The terrain was not. The terrain between the trailhead and the area he was searching covers miles of volcanic rock and sparse high desert scrub. The route involves elevation gain that is significant but not extreme for someone with his experience. Landmarks are few and consistent. Specific ridgelines, certain canyon junctions, the occasional old fence post from ranching operations that ended decades ago. He documented his progress on camera, narrating the landscape in the measured tones of someone translating an environment they know intimately. The restricted zone's boundary runs roughly parallel to the canyon system he was searching. During his documented hikes, he remarked at least once on a remote-operated aircraft visible in the middle distance. He noted it without alarm. Those are a known feature of that airspace, and a hiker familiar with the area becomes accustomed to their presence. The proximity of the exclusion zone was simply part of the landscape. Not a danger he felt directly, just part of where he was. The geology of that section of the Sheep Range produces the kind of formations that look, from a distance, as though they might contain unusual openings. The rock weathers in layers. Canyon walls develop alcoves and arches and recesses in patterns that geology determines, but that the eye reads as shapes. He was looking for one specific shape among hundreds of possibilities. Without exact coordinates from his original visit, identifying it required a methodical approach. Approaching every plausible opening, examining it, moving on. Hours of footage from that first documented return show him doing exactly that. Opening after opening, each one examined and discarded. The commentary is consistent throughout. He is not frustrated yet, just thorough. He discusses the rock structures in geological terms, noting where layer composition suggests a natural arch might have formed, identifying where water damage has eroded particularly deep alcoves. He is a knowledgeable observer of the terrain, and the terrain is not showing him what he came to find. He filmed himself searching for hours. Every opening in the rock face looked similar. None of them matched. He uploaded the footage when he returned. The comments section received it with mixed responses. Some viewers expressed sympathy and encouraged him to try again. Others noted that the scale of the terrain made finding a specific, previously undocumented cave without precise coordinates genuinely difficult. A few suggested he had invented the original account. He read all of these. He replied to some. He wrote, in at least one reply, that he intended to return to the area as many times as necessary. The second documented return produced an unexpected observation. During an afternoon in the upper section of a canyon he had not covered on the first trip, a large black ram appeared on the ridge above him. It did not move away. It watched him. For the next several hours it tracked his position along the ridge above, maintaining its elevated vantage without alarm or aggression. He filmed it extensively. He said the ram unsettled him more than the failed searches had. Wild animals in remote terrain move away from unfamiliar human presence. It is their default behavior. A ram that does not retreat, that maintains deliberate visual contact across several hours of movement through a canyon below it, is behaving in a way that falls outside the ordinary. He described it afterward in online comments. He said he could not explain what it was watching for. He did not encounter it again. He still could not find the entrance. The canyon system is large. The number of plausible locations for a specific formation is significant. He was working without a precise record of where he had been when he originally encountered the cave. His original visit had not been planned as a documented event. He had simply been hiking, had stumbled across it, had left. The process of finding it again in a range that covers miles of similar terrain was genuinely difficult. By October of that year, he had uploaded multiple videos from the Sheep Range. His online presence in comments beneath those videos was consistent. He mentioned, in several places, that he thought reaching the cave might require going deeper into the canyon than he had gone during the film trips. Alone, unfilmed, without the weight of an audience watching him search. By November he had made his decision. He would return without the camera and without an audience watching. He told the people who were closest to him that he was planning another trip. He told his girlfriend the trailhead he planned to use. He did not post publicly about the upcoming hike in any detail. No announcement, no description of his route, no communication to the communities that had followed his search for months. The silence in his online presence from that point forward is one of the quietest parts of the record. He had simply stopped performing the search. He left the camera at home. He took no means of being tracked. He walked out alone. November in the Sheep Range is cold at elevation. The days are short. The light runs out before any useful hiking window closes. He was experienced in cold weather desert travel and understood those constraints. His girlfriend confirmed later that he had packed carefully and specifically, as someone would who was planning an expedition rather than a day walk. He knew what he was doing. He had done it before. He was going in prepared. The particular quality of the last days of his visible record is a stillness. He had been an active online presence for months, answering questions, posting updates, engaging with the community that had gathered around his story. And then, gradually, the responses slowed. The updates stopped. The last entries in his online trail are routine. Small replies to unrelated threads, casual participation that marks someone present but not focused on any particular thing. Then there is nothing. On the 10th of November 2014, he left his car at the trailhead and walked away. His car was found at the location his girlfriend had provided to the authorities. That fact is one of the clearest indicators that he was organised and deliberate going into that final trip. He had told her where to look. He had left the car exactly where he said he would. That level of planning speaks to someone in full possession of their intentions. Someone who had made decisions, prepared for them, and executed them according to a specific plan, whatever that plan was. The desert in November at that elevation is a different environment than the one he had documented in his earlier videos. The spare scrubland becomes colder, quieter, more austere. The light is thin and early. The ground holds moisture near the surface in ways that make certain rock faces slicker than they appear. He had hiked in those conditions before. He had the gear for it. He walked away from his car into that landscape. The mine shaft was approximately 4 hours from the trailhead at a reasonable hiking pace. It was part of a historical mineral extraction operation. One of many such workings in the Sheep Range, none of them formally registered in any publicly available survey. The surface opening is narrow. The shaft descends into the rock at an angle. There is no fencing, no indication on any map that it exists. He knew it was there, or he found it. Either way, he stopped there. The cell phone was found near the shaft opening. Not inside it. Near it, on the surface set down on the rock. The deliberateness of that placement distinguishes it from an accidental drop. He had removed the phone and placed it in a specific location before continuing on. His girlfriend confirmed in her comment that she believed he had left it intentionally, that removing the phone was a considered act, something he had planned to do at a specific point in the hike. His phone was found there, placed on the ground deliberately. Beyond that point, the desert held nothing more. Search and rescue personnel entered the range over the following days. They worked outward from the car and from the phone, covering the most likely routes in between and beyond. The terrain is vast and without clear landmarks in its interior sections. They found no discarded gear, no disturbed ground, no physical sign of where he had gone after leaving the phone. The desert in that area absorbs movement without leaving a readable record. They searched. They found nothing more. The mine shaft itself presented difficulties. A standard search and rescue operation is not equipped to descend into historical mining workings of unknown depth and structural stability. The shaft required specialised equipment to assess properly. Whether a recovery team was ever deployed into that specific shaft and what the results were is not part of any publicly available record. What is known is that the initial search did not confirm or rule out the shaft as the site of his death. The restricted zone's presence complicated the search geographically. The boundary of the exclusion zone runs through the area where he was likely travelling beyond the phone. Personnel conducting search operations near a restricted military zone face constraints that do not apply in open civilian terrain. Access must be cleared, whether any portion of the area he might have travelled through was effectively inaccessible to searchers for this reason has never been formally addressed. Days passed, then weeks. The search was eventually suspended without recovery. His legal status became that of a missing person, the category that keeps a case technically open while acknowledging that no active investigation continues. No body had been found, no cause of death could be determined. The desert had accepted him without explanation. His case joined a specific category of Nevada disappearances, experienced people who went into remote terrain and did not come back. No remains were ever recovered, no trace beyond the phone. The case remained open and the desert stayed quiet. His girlfriend's comment appeared under one of his uploaded videos after the initial search concluded. She confirmed the facts. The car was found where she had told authorities to look. The phone was found near the shaft. He was not. She described his preparations in the days before he left as focused and quiet, the way he became before a significant solo trip. She confirmed he had not taken the camera. He had no intention of filming anything on that final hike. That comment is still there, beneath a video of him walking through desert terrain. People continue to find it. It has been quoted in almost every account of his disappearance written since. The detail about the camera receives the most attention. He always filmed his hikes. The camera was his usual companion in that terrain. Leaving it behind was not an oversight. It was a decision. And that decision, in the absence of any further information, has never been fully explained. The restricted zone theories are a persistent thread in every discussion of his case. The proximity of the exclusion zone to where his phone was found invites speculation that cannot be resolved through any public record. Whether testing at that installation produces effects detectable as a physical sensation in the surrounding terrain is not documented. Whether any such activity has any connection to a missing hiker is entirely unknown. The geography creates the question. That is the limit of what can be said. Years passed after the initial search. The case did not gain the attention of official investigative bodies beyond the initial missing person filing. The remote location, the lack of physical evidence, the absence of any witness to what happened beyond the point where the phone was found. All of these factors combined to make the case one that official channels had little means to advance. The desert had given up nothing. Officially, he remains a missing person. The designation means the case is open. No conclusion reached, no presumption of death in any formal record. It can remain in place indefinitely, held open by the absence of proof in either direction. Those who knew him exist in the particular suspension that missing persons cases produce, waiting without the specific resolution that might allow them to stop waiting. That waiting is one of the lesser told costs of a disappearance that left no evidence behind. Online, the case did not go cold. Every year, new people arrived and began the search from the beginning. The community that formed around his case was not a fringe group. It included desert hikers who understood the terrain, researchers familiar with the history of the area, and ordinary people who found the story compelling for the most basic reason. A man had disappeared and nobody knew why. These groups approached the question differently, but they shared the same fundamental gap at the centre of their research. The desert had not given up an answer, and they were not willing to stop asking. The digital archaeology of his online presence is unusually thorough. He was active across multiple comment sections in the period leading up to his disappearance, and researchers found posts that had not been widely circulated. Comments under small videos, replies in forgotten threads. Reading through this material in sequence provides a more complete portrait of his thinking than any single account had captured. It does not provide an explanation for what happened, but it provides a person, which is a different thing entirely. His girlfriend described him as calm in the final days before his departure, not distressed, not afraid. The kind of calm that comes from having made a decision and committed to it fully. She had seen that quality in him before significant solo hikes into serious terrain. It did not alarm her. It was simply how he was when he had fully resolved to do something difficult. The calm did not break. He left it intact behind him when he walked away from the car. The mine shaft near where his phone was found has been examined multiple times since his disappearance. Initial search teams lowered equipment into the upper section. The shaft angles as it descends, which limits visibility beyond a certain point. Whether a thorough inspection of that shaft has ever been conducted, and what the results were, is not part of any public record researchers have located. The days of silence stretched into months, and then into years. The comments kept coming. He did not. The vibration he described has prompted discussion among people with backgrounds in geology and physics. Standing acoustic resonance can occur in certain enclosed rock formations under specific atmospheric conditions, producing sensations detectable to the human body without any audible component. Electromagnetic fields from geological structures or buried infrastructure can produce proprioceptive discomfort in some individuals. Both are consistent with a specific rock formation in a specific location, producing a very specific physical response. The area has a long history of experimental activity not fully disclosed in any public record. Underground installations in that region are not unusual. Technical systems that generate electromagnetic signatures as a byproduct of their operation would not be unfamiliar to that landscape. Whether any of that is relevant to a single hiker's unexplained experience in a canyon nearby is impossible to determine from outside the restricted zone. He had posted carefully about the vibration. Some of what he experienced he chose not to share publicly. Several subsequent visitors have documented their own searches. One described finding an opening in a canyon wall that partially matched his description, an arch-shaped formation with an unusual profile. They reported the opening had been partially blocked with loose stones, consistent with someone having closed it by hand rather than by geological process. Their account has not been independently verified, neither has it been ruled out. It is one more piece in a record that does not assemble cleanly. He was an experienced man, he knew those mountains, and still the desert took him without a sound. 11 years on, his uploaded video remains accessible. Comment section still grows, he is still not there. To encounter his case for the first time is to be caught off guard. You find a video, a man walking through a canyon pointing at rock formations narrating calmly. The footage is ordinary. Variable light, slightly unsteady framing, desert wind. He seems entirely present in the landscape. You are several minutes in before you realise he has been missing for 11 years, and then the footage becomes something different. You are watching someone move towards something. You do not know what. A digital record of his disappearance functions, now as an unintended archive of a life approaching its endpoint. It was not constructed as a monument. He was not documenting himself for posterity. He was simply an online person doing what online people do. Sharing experiences, responding to curiosity, participating in a community that had found him interesting. The archive accumulated without design, and now it is the most complete account we have of a man moving towards something that did not give him back. Disappearances in the digital era have a distinct character compared to those before widespread documentation. The timeline is legible, the person's voice is preserved. Not a formal statement, but the casual, unguarded voice of someone posting late at night in a conversation that felt inconsequential. All of this creates an intimacy with a case that is unusual for a missing person from a decade ago. You can hear him. You can read him. You simply cannot find him. The casual moments in his archive linger longest. A reply to a comment unrelated to the cave, posted in the early hours. A short observation about geology that struck him on an earlier hike. The particular way he described difficult terrain. Always respectful, as though the desert had earned his attention through effort. These fragments accumulate into a character that is recognisable, and then the character disappears, and the record continues without him. His words are still there, his footage is still there, he is the only thing that is not. Reading his archived comments in chronological order is a form of archaeology. The early entries show someone fully in their element, confident, knowledgeable, engaged with their landscape in the way that long experience produces, then a shift. After the original comment, something changes. There is a new quality of focus, a narrowing of attention toward a single location and a single unanswered question. The desert had given him something he found impossible to set down. The desert gave him a question he could not put down. The internet made certain he never did. The dynamic between an online audience and a person at the centre of an unresolved story is not obviously harmful. Nobody was trying to put him in danger. They were curious and enthusiastic. The attentive audience that most people who post online hope to find. But that kind of attention creates pressure that does not announce itself as pressure. It shapes choices. It makes the act of stopping harder than the act of continuing. He did not stop. Whatever the cave was, a geological coincidence, a product of specific technical activity in the area, something he partially misremembered, or something not yet explained. His account of it was genuine. He was not fabricating the vibration. The record shows no pattern of exaggeration in his other posts. He was a careful observer who reported what he experienced. Something happened to him in that canyon the first time he entered it. He needed to understand what. He was not unreasonable to want that. The internet gave him the push. The desert kept what followed. Somewhere between those two facts, a man disappeared. His case sits at the intersection of several uncomfortable realities simultaneously. The first is that desert terrain in that region is genuinely dangerous. Experienced hikers die there regularly through falls and exposure. The second is that the restricted zone boundary created access complications that may have prevented a complete search. The third is that an online audience had built expectations he felt compelled to meet. None of these realities alone explains his disappearance. Together, they describe the conditions in which it was possible. There is no resolution to offer at the end of this account. The case has not been solved. No remains have been recovered. No definitive evidence has established what happened after he left his phone on the rock beside the mine shaft. The restricted zone has not commented. The shaft has not been fully investigated. The cave, if it exists, has not been confirmed. Everything that might resolve the case remains behind questions that have not found their answers. What we have is the digital record, the original comment, the uploaded videos, the girlfriend's note confirming the phone, confirming the car, confirming the camera stayed at home, the accumulated replies of thousands who found the story after he was gone, the archive searches of people who drove to Nevada and walked into the range with questions they did not answer. All of it circles one absent point. The record knows where the man was. It does not know where he went. The desert does not move for anyone. The answer, if it exists anywhere at all, is still out there. He was a person before he was a mystery. That distinction matters, and it is easy to lose in the gravity of an unsolved case. His online presence shows genuine expertise and genuine enthusiasm for a specific landscape, built over years of careful work. He'd been exploring that desert long before he ever encountered the cave. The mystery is what remained after the person stopped being visibly present. The mystery is not the same as the man. There is a question that his case quietly asks, shared by every unresolved mystery that has found an audience online. What do we owe the record? The archive exists because people participated in it. Because he participated in it, because the audience participated. That participation was not neutral, it shaped what happened. And now the same archive is the only thing that keeps the question alive. The record created the conditions. The record holds the aftermath. The record does not hold the answer. If this story found you between sleep and waking, that is the nature of a mystery without an ending. It stays open because it is open. If you know this case, if you have searched that range, if you have found something in those canyons that changes any part of what we know, the comments are still there. They have always been there. They are still being read. The digital record waits for the one thing it was never given, an answer.